And it's with that wonderful intro music that we come to you for the Altar Live show. Welcome. I'm Andy. That over there is...
I'm Maeve.
That's Maeve. Yeah, I had my camera angle wrong. That's okay. I'm trying to do it in reverse and whatever, it's not working. Welcome, everybody, to the Altar Live show. It's the best part of your week. I know it's the best part of our week. Maeve, what about you? Is it the best part of your week?
Totally, without a doubt.
That was a setup. You had to say that.
Well, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So we are going to be talking today about a number of things. Obviously, you can see in the chat in the comments what we're going to be talking about a little bit later on. We're talking engagement. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, if you have found any tips or tricks with the Altar Live platform, throw them in the comments and let's have a conversation about them. We are going to end up having a conversation about some really cool stuff. But before we do that, Maeve and I had something that we were going to talk about beforehand, and then... we were going to talk about hosts and kind of the Food Network, and we'll get to that one at a later date. But I before the show during pre-production, I said, okay, I got to go make some tea. And Maeve's ears perked up and she said, ooh, you're going to make tea.
Yeah.
And
yes.
And so Maeve, I want you to tell me about your history with tea, because I'm here to tell you, I don't normally drink it. Well, okay, you first, and then I'll get to where I'm coming from here. What's your history with tea?
I feel like it's just a staple in my life for a long time, even before I started drinking it. Like, it was just always around. I'm 50% Iranian, so all of the people on that side of the family would just drink tea with every meal or after every meal, and so it was just a staple, and it brings back a lot of good memories. But then as I've gotten older, before I, branched out to different flavors or even different beverages, like coffee beverages, like tea was okay. I personally like all kinds of tea. I think the one that I would like, the always, good old standby is like Earl Grey with some milk and some sugar, or honey. Honey's fine. Sugar and honey. Sometimes I want honey because it has that specific flavor, but then sometimes sugar is the good, the classic. I don't know if I like fruit teas. I think I want to say no, but then there's always that. One time I did have a fruit tea and I like it, but I will always say I'm not going to have a fruit tea. And if, that comes to, I'll have to have one, then I'll be like, okay, fine. Sure. But it's never the first pick. I don't think pumpkin spice belongs in tea. I've never had a pumpkin spice latte, so that's another thing, but we're focusing on tea. So pumpkin spice doesn't belong in tea. I think classic Earl Grey, chamomile, or like an Iranian blend, which I like. Honestly, there are so many, so I can't think of, like a cardamom.
I was going to say, like, I know Middle Easterners, they take their tea almost as serious as the English and the Indians.
Yes. And I usually, like, traditionally it would be in like little cups, but in my family we would actually have it in those big beer jug glasses.
Yeah.
And which is actually not good because it's meant to hold cold drinks. So because we've had some of those mugs for a long time, and there was one time I was pouring, it like exploded while I was pouring myself some tea. And so now we're like very wary sometimes when we get those like ancient beer mugs out of the But yeah, it's a long history. It's still growing. I've like tried to be that person who's like, okay, I'm just going to drink tea without sweetener, but it's really, really hard. Mm-hmm. Like I think it needs that sweetness.
So I'm drinking straight green matcha tea right now. This is just straight up. I used to drink, when I was a worship pastor, I would drink throat coat like it was going out of style. Throat coat and a little bit of lemon essential oil and some honey, and it would like do the whole soothing thing. But I'm a coffee guy. Like I remember when I was like super young, my mom would make a pot of black coffee, and then she would drink a cup in the morning, and then she'd drink another cup, and then she'd leave about a quarter of it, maybe a half of it, and it would just get cold, and she'd go and do something else. And then I would crawl up onto the kitchen chair and I'd drink some of her coffee, and I hated it. And then the older I got, I was like, oh, this is really good. And so I'm a fan of like artisanal coffees and all of the like espressos. And we've got like We've got some homegrown roasters down here. We partner with one at the church we work at, and it's an amazing little roastery, some of the best coffee I've had in the world. But what I found was that it was kind of wrecking my stomach later on in the day.
Mm,
And
yep.
so I've switched to, I'll have a cup, possibly a cup and a half of coffee in the
Mm,
morning. And then I've switched to tea, either matcha tea or um, there's this weird celestial seasonings like black tea that has caffeine in it, like a lot of caffeine in it, that
yes.
I love it. I didn't think I was going to love it. It's got like vanilla flavoring in it. It's not, I don't put any
Oh,
sugar
that's
or
good.
anything. I just drink it straight.
Yeah.
But ooh, it's really good. Anyway, so tea drinkers
I
out
was gonna,
there,
yeah,
tea
tea
drinkers out there
drinkers.
can rejoice. Coffee drinkers can also rejoice that I'm still with you. I'm
Yeah.
still on your side, coffee drinkers. I just
I love
for
coffee too.
Okay, good. So we're
Yes.
simpatico here. I think that people that take these hardline stances about a lot of things, like politics, religion, and coffee versus tea, I think you guys need to
Yeah.
go get an island and just argue for a little bit because the rest of us have life to live, you know?
And I really can't choose because I think I'll always pick coffee first
Yep.
because I think there's a time and a place for tea, and
Yes.
when it's that time and place, it's awesome. But I think coffee's that classic standby, grab
Yep.
a cup of coffee.
Yep.
Do you take it, do you just drink it
Oh
black?
yeah. I
Or do you
always
add it?
no, always
Okay.
black. Do you?
No half and half.
No.
I do half and half and that's it. I
No,
don't do
God,
sugar.
God intended coffee to be made to be drank black. That's why he made it black. If he wanted to be drank with cream and sugar, he would have put it with cream and sugar. Maeve, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You on your coffee beverages. Um, I was
Right
derided when
on.
I first got married. I got derided a little bit because my wife was a cream and two Splenda type of person, and then over
I
seven
can't
and a
do
half,
Splenda.
almost eight years of marriage, now she drinks it black. And I think it's funny the progression that she's gone because I've maintained, and she just kept going like, I'm gonna drink it black, I'm gonna drink it black, or I'm gonna put all this crap in it, and then it was like, well, maybe I'll just put one Splenda, well, maybe I'll just do cream, maybe I'll just do black. Oh my gosh, it's really good. So yes, it is really good. Anyway,
Interesting.
we didn't come here today to talk about tea or coffee. Sorry for taking up
Not
so much of
coffee
your
talk.
time. No, it's not coffee talk. We're not in
Coffee talk.
coffee talk with Andy and Maeve. Welcome to Coffee Talk. Today we're going to be talking about hosts, and we're going to be talking. I can't do that for very much longer. Maeve, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about engagement and taking a seat.
Interesting.
Taking a seat.
Taking a seat.
It's kind of
So
like
go for it.
engagement part two,
Yeah.
but we're focusing on specifically taking a seat, encouraging people to take in a seat, taking that first leap into the altar live realm, the
Absolutely. Yeah.
exciting
So
altar live realm.
Alter Live is obviously we're a platform. We are a church engagement platform that is based and solely around the digital space. And so part of the digital thing that happens when you get into churches is that a lot of people don't know what they're doing, especially hosts and greeters, and a lot of people don't know how to train them. And so our job right here today is to help you in your training. This is not going to be a technical training. This is more going to be
Mhm.
so we're not going to show you the bells and the buttons and all that. We have a couple of little tricks, but today we really want to kind of show you as a host and you as a greeter how to create a welcoming environment for those people online that are coming to your event, that are coming to your church, that are coming to your organization. Because without all of that, it's just watching a Netflix show, and your church and your community do not deserve a Netflix show. They deserve you. They deserve engagement. They deserve real, honest community. And so we're gonna kind of try to help you with that. And there are a number of different things that happen, unfortunately, when you first log into the Altar Live platform. So, Maeve, can you take it from here while I shift some gears real quick?
Sure. Yeah, so we kind of want to start this discussion talking about taking a seat, but also why people might not take a seat. So you can get into your attendees, members, newcomers' minds when they're entering an Altar Live event.
Mm,
Why? Because maybe, you're a host or a greeter, and at this point you're like, I love this platform. Why aren't people taking a seat? I see how awesome it is. Why can't they understand it? So that's kind of what we want to start talking about, just so you can kind of be in newcomers' shoes and realize that, entering a new space can be hard and
yeah.
it can be scary. So once you kind of understand what they're going through, you can have that wisdom to take the next steps of getting people to engage and feeling welcome.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
there's a number of things that actually happen, and I just want to show real quick as you keep talking. But the second somebody logs into your event, they're going to get greeted with this pop up here. It says, "Welcome to our church. We're so glad you're joining service." And it's, you can kind of customize some of these things back in the back end. And again, this is not a technical broadcast today, but they're going to be able to take a tour and see how to chat with people and see how
oh yeah,
to
this
then,
is new and this
yeah.
is very cool.
And this is very cool. Like, this has helped a lot, I think, with people trying to
Mm-hmm.
understand the platform a little bit more, because
Mm-hmm.
honestly, there are people that don't want to take a seat. They don't want to click one of these little things here, and they don't want to take a seat in a row. It's unfortunate, but some people just want to remain anonymous, and some people just want to hang in the shadows. Some people just don't understand how to use technical stuff, and that's fine. That's a hurdle you can overcome. But some people are just not comfortable being on camera and taking a seat. Some people are comfortable only in the chat area, and let me open up the chat area. Some people are only comfortable in this area here, and it's your job as a host and your job as a greeter to get them to feel comfortable wherever that is. But ideally, you
Mm-hmm.
want to try to step them into kind of taking a seat next to somebody so they can talk with somebody and be here. Let me hit go live here so we can kind of have this video running. And there's a video that's, hey, look at that. That's a guy. But you want people to be sitting there and engaging with the service that's happening, with the event that's happening. You obviously need to really feel comfortable to do so. And so part of your job, and we're going to kind of move into some of the, where did my thing go? Tips and tricks. Boom, look at that. Tips and tricks with the N.
Love that.
Where do you stand on the N, the tips and tricks? And I don't know why my camera's
Stand
all
on it.
messed up.
I personally don't use that. I usually would do a and symbol, but I like it. It
Oh,
adds a fun flair.
okay. You're the and type of person. I like that.
Yeah, I
Um,
like the and symbol. Oh,
Let
what?
me, yeah, I know my camera's freaking out. Go ahead and take it from here on the tips and tricks. Let me fix my camera real quick. I'll be right back.
Sure. Um, so there was something I actually wanted to talk about the chat before we go into the tips and tricks. I think people don't want to take a seat because they like to hide behind their words, like just their
Hmm.
words. Because when we enter the chat, we almost feel invincible, whether it's, any social media post or even a chat on Alter Live. Um, People probably are so much wittier because they can plan out what they're going to say, or they sound so much more confident. So I think that is also a thing people struggle with, of not wanting to take a seat, because if they can put their best self forward in the chat, that's what they want to see. But putting your best self forward all the time is not what being in a community is all about.
Hmm.
It's coming as you are and growing together. And if you're just hiding behind a chat and sending an emoji every now and then, you're not going to grow and you're not going to be challenged,
Hmm.
because that's what happens when you're in true community.
Right.
That's just, that's my spiel. But moving on to tips and tricks. This is not technicals, but when you are in a host position, you really have to think, how am I going to make this space welcoming for participate in a space. So you as a host have to think, how can I create this space in a digital platform, because we're all learning how to do that. The first one is purposefully host. So you have to realize that you yourself as a host, you're a real person, and you have to make the people who are in the service with you also know you're a real person. You're not a robot. You are a real person as a host, and it's just like you were hosting an event in person. That is what you're doing. So when you begin an event, introduce yourself to the main chat so everyone knows who you are. You don't have to get too personal. You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with. But when people join your event or meeting for the first time, they might subconsciously be looking for who is in charge and they can ask questions to. You are that person, so make yourself known, and also make it seem that you're a real person who wants to connect and help these people feel welcome. You like like I said, like sometimes it's really hard to create that space over um, a digital platform, but in the chat you can do that because you can make yourself known, you can be personal, you don't have to sound like an automated robot because you aren't one. um, you have to help people warm up with each other, and this is why we have hosts and greeters, to make people connect with your church or organization, to make sure that they know that they belong with you. So next, be specific. So answer the unspoken question of why you're gathering here today, or what are you going to be doing during your time together. So that could be a simple message. Um, Outline what you're going to be talking about in the service.
I'm back.
This could be, oh, you're back.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
I missed you so much.
I know you did. I was here the whole time, Maeve. I was right next to you the whole time.
I felt you near me.
Yeah, good.
Okay, where was I? Okay, yes.
I totally threw off your mojo. Sorry about that.
That's okay. You have to be specific, and it might sound really simple. Telling people, oh, we're gathered here today because of this, but really outlining what you're going to be talking about. That will help, especially on a digital platform. It's okay to be simple and to be silly and to be lighthearted, because it's a digital platform. People aren't getting to see your personality. So if you can kind of put that into your message, that's a way to get people to warm up to you. And give directions. Yeah. So always be giving directions to make sure that people know the service of the schedule. When you go into a normal church service, you know the structure. Holding an online church service you could still follow the same structure, or it could be completely different, or if because you're in a new space, people won't know what to expect, even though they've been going to church and know a usual church structure their whole lives. And don't think you're dumbing people down by saying, and now we're going to move into the lobby. No, be specific, give directions. People need it, and that's how they're going to be feel the most welcome first. And then show, don't tell, which is not only the rule for Altar Live, it's also the first rule you learn when you're writing a story. And what are we doing in Altar Live? We're sharing stories, we're telling stories, we're helping people share their stories.
Look at you. That was good. I
just pulled that
right
was
out of real good.
I don't know what happened. So model interaction by doing it yourself. You as the host, that just because you're kind of helping run the show doesn't mean that you're not participating. You're always putting things in the chat. You're sitting next to people, asking them how their day was. You lead by example. You might have a bunch of cheerleaders who are also taking a seat with you, but you also need to set that example too.
Yeah. One of the things I think you said there that's very interesting, and I peeled behind the curtain. I was supposed to be doing this section, and then my camera crapped out, and so Maeve was a superhero and jumped in there. So good job, Maeve.
Oh, thank you.
Golf clap. But one of the things as you were talking about it was the give directions. And I wanna kind of hone in on that real quick, and I want to ask you, like, what are, you've been doing this for a little bit. You've been looking at the platform for a while, and as have I. What are some of the prime directions that you see people giving?
I think like we said before, I think it's about being specific, like encouraging people, while you're waiting, take a seat, or while you're waiting, greet someone next to you. I think it's those simple directions that will encourage more community. But then there's also, if you have a question, message this person in the chat, or giving clear instructions of things that could happen, not exactly like if something happens, you'll have a backup plan and you can direct them to how they can get help or how they can get their questions answered.
Yeah, and that kind of leads us into the next section, using your tools section, the tools to help you section, because one of the things that happens is people log in and they see this gigantic seating chart thing there, and they go, one of three things really happens. Number one, they're like, yeah, I'm in, man. And they want to turn on everything and they want to tell you their life story and they want to overshare and they want to do the whole thing. And it's like, hold on there, Maverick. Like, let's calm down. So there's that person. There's the person that's wary and needs a little bit of coaxing. And then there's the person who's never, ever, ever, ever going to turn on their camera and turn on and sit down. And that, you can only do so much with that type of person. But the first two types of people really can be helped and aided by what a host is doing. And your job as a host and greeter is to get them to almost know the why of why they're going to be sitting down and understand what is trying to happen in that service. And we're going to do a series a little bit later on. We were just talking about it maybe Tuesday, about as the content creator. So not even necessarily as the host and the greeter, but as the content creator, you need to make sure that you're giving specific action steps, because your live service, so you can see the live service that's happening up above me. This is a service from my church called Bay Hope Church in Tampa. But at the very beginning, so this is technically what you're seeing, all of this YouTube video here. What you're seeing is a live broadcast that's coming from our main broadcast campus. And so this is put together thing. I mean, my brother and sister are right there, and there's my brother right there. Like, it's an awesome time. But the one thing that happens that we have learned, and that we have learned over a couple of years of doing this, is that the very beginning of this was me sitting in a studio talking to the camera, because what this essentially is an online broadcast. And I know that I'm talking to people. And so even later on, I think on here, we kick into communion, and there's me sitting there talking again to the camera, because I know that I'm talking to a bunch of people online. This isn't going to help you with host and greeter training right now. What this is going to do, however, content creators out there, start to percolate a little bit on how you can start to reorient your events just a little bit to encourage people to get in the chat and to take a seat. That's one general tip. The second big one, Maeve, and I'm going to kind of take this from you if you don't mind.
Go for it.
But it's over here in this kind of side area. It's the chat. Use the chat. It's going to be one, you want people to sit down and take a seat, right? You want them to turn on their camera. You want them to engage with your community. You want them to feel comfortable with what you're doing as a church or as an organization. But you got to start somewhere. And so starting in this general chat area where I conveniently left a message 15 minutes ago in this area, this is where you want to start. You want to start in the general chat. You want to let people know in this chat. You want to literally type into there what the seating section is for. You want to literally tell people what's going to be happening during the event. This is, Maeve was just saying it, show, don't tell. Well, you also want to be able to tell them as well. You want to show them by sitting down in the seat, by making sure you're taking your row. But as a host or a greeter, you also want to make sure that you're telling them, hey, your seats are for this. This is how to turn your camera on. We're going to be doing this. We're going to have offering and announcements and this and this. And then afterwards, we're going to move into the lobby and they're going to do all those things. Everybody who's an anonymous viewer, so somebody who has not logged in, somebody who has not signed up with Ultra Live and kind of logged in with your community, they'll be able to see the general chat. They won't be able to engage with it. They won't be able to type in there, but they'll be able to see it. They will be able to type in the My Chats area, and we'll get to that. I don't know if we're going to get to that later. Oh, yeah, no, we're going to get to that later, the direct messaging. They will be able to engage with that. However, they will see everything that's going on there. And ideally, you're dropping enough breadcrumbs to make people curious to want to sit down with you. Maeve, you want to talk about direct messages?
Sure. Yes. So as we talked about last time, Andy kind of jokingly, but also seriously said, direct messages can be a little creepy sometimes. And I can understand that. But I think they are incredibly powerful if used properly. So you can make personal, direct invitations for people to take a seat. And you can do that in a nice, invitational, not creepy, do that as you will, but seeking people out. It's really hard when you go into a big crowd and, you feel like, no one even knows I exist. I'm just going to sneak in the back. That's the kind of nice thing about Ultra Live. As a host, you can see who's there. And so if you see someone who, for some reason you think okay, this person looks like they want to take a seat, reach out to them and say, hey, I'm so glad you're here. Why
Hmm.
don't you take a seat? And you could even explain what the seating section was for, just like Andy said. You could even, it's like almost taking it a step forward from the general chat, because the general chat is for everyone. But then if you want to reach out to one specific person because you feel on your heart that you should be reaching out to them, you can do that. And that, I mean, if I got one of those messages, if I went into an Ultra Live event, I was new, I was scared, I didn't know what was going on, and a lovely host reached out to me and said, Maeve, I'm so glad you're here. If you're new, I can answer any questions, but we would love it if you would take a seat. The seating space is a area where you can join watch parties and get to know other people in your row. I would feel so special,
Hmm.
and someone who probably would want to stay anonymous if I had no idea what Ultra Live was. I tend to be a wallflower. If I got a
What,
personalized
really?
nice
You?
invitation, yes.
Dude. Okay. Fair enough.
I would probably, take that leap of faith and take a seat. And as Andy said, using the chat in special ways to leave those breadcrumbs to give people instructions for them to tuck away during the service, or even a long period of time when you slowly start going to Ultra Live. That's going to be really helpful
Hmm.
for either making someone want to jump in right away, or kind of lets them dip their toe in the water, and then later down the line they'll want to really engage and be a part of the community. That was long-winded, but you
No,
can also make
it was
group
good.
chats. You can make group chats also for 2 or 3 people. Maybe if you, like, I'm thinking of how I bet maybe if a family went, but they're all on different devices,
Hmm.
and the host saw they all had the same last name. Are you guys from the same family? Would you want to sit together in a row? You can do that. So that's also another way. Who knows? Maybe there's some people with the same last name who aren't related. That's definitely happened. But, that would be a funny conversation starter within a row. That's one
Absolutely.
way to start a conversation and get to know people.
S-
Um,
So we got a real question, real quick. I want to
oh,
jump in
yes.
with this question from CRM, our good buddy CRM. Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, wherever you're at. Uh, they said, question: can the host take a seat during an event to talk with attendees? Absolutely. That is the prime directive of what hosts are doing, and that's what Maeve was talking about with the show Don't Tell.
Mm-hmm.
The little notes that we've been kind of working off of, and kind of the video. I'm actually creating a video, literally, like right after this. I'm working on a video for it on how to derive engagement from the chat. And one of the things we talk about, or one of the things I'm talking about in the video, is as a host, it is vitally important for you to show people how to act in your service. It's almost like, in my head, it's a weird way of parenting, where I'm going to tell my kids, hey, make sure you don't run out in the road while you're playing. But I'm also going to like not run out in the road when I'm playing. And I'm going to tell my kids, hey, make sure that you make your bed every single morning. So I'm going to make my bed every single morning so they know they need to make their bed, and so on and so forth. And so you as a host, it's vital for you to be talking in the chat so that people see your avatar, see your either picture or your name or your just your letter, numeral, whatever, and that they see that sitting in a seat so that they know, okay, that person who's talking to me with that says host on it or that says greeter on it is also sitting there, and so I can go sit next to them. What also is very, very powerful, and what we're rolling out in, I think, the next update, so pretty quickly, is that sometimes when rows fill up, you as a host can't go and sit down because there's no more seats to. We are now going to have, you're going to have the option as a host to sit in a full row. So no
Oh,
longer
yeah,
is it
you
going to
can
be,
do that.
yeah, 4
You
people.
can
You're
do
going
that
to,
now.
you can do that now? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I didn't know that. That's news to music to my ears. So yeah, you can go and sit in a row that's full as a host, and so you can actually take a seat with those attendees. So hope that answers your question, CRM. If you got any more, as always, we are here to help you. Let's roll on to number 4 here, the use of announcements. You want to talk through announcements while I pull up some of these, Maeve?
Sure. So announcements are exactly as they sound. They're a way to kind of send messages. They're a little bit more, I would like to say, powerful than chats
Mm.
because you can. There are a couple of different styles you can do. There's ones that will pop up in the middle of the screen, so you'll guaranteed not to miss it. There's ones in the panel similar to the way you find the chat, and then there's another one which is completely escaping my mind.
There is modal, there is notification,
Notification.
and then there is the other one, which is called panel, which means it just pops up in the chat area.
Okay, perfect. There we go.
So I'm going to make this one modal so we can see what happens here.
Perfect. And so it's similar to the chat, but like I said, yeah, exactly. It's very easy to see. You won't miss it, and you'll be able to quickly dismiss it, and you'll know what to do. But this is really great throughout the service. Reminding people to take a seat. Maybe don't use the one in the middle of the screen every 10 seconds. That could get
It
annoying.
does get super annoying, yeah.
You could use the panel one, but that's always a good way to, that's a good way to kind of take that first step if you don't want to use the chat. It could be something that I think you can set a time for it, so as soon as people log in, they'll be able to see it. It can almost be as another welcome message. But there's a lot of different messages you can send. I've seen ones where people will remind people that communion or tithing. You can really get creative with announcements. I think they're a little bit trickier to figure out how to encourage people to take a seat without just kind of
Beating them over the
saying
head.
take a seat every.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to get creative with it and not overkill with the announcements. I think if you want to keep sending that message, the chat is the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. There's that, and then in the same vein, using polls as well. Polls are we've seen some churches and some organizations doing some very creative things with polls, not just in breakout terms. So when we kind of talked about it last week, if you joined us, we talked about using polls to separate people in lobby tables. There are churches that are doing that, and that's fantastic. But there's also, it kind of helps to break down a little bit of the barriers that people have set up. If you put a poll that says, how was your week? Good, meh, amazing, need help, that type of thing. And if you put 2 or 3 of those up, kind of some lighthearted questions, some stuff that might be starting to probe a little bit, but really just, are you a tea or a coffee person? That type of thing. If you, that's a callback, by the way. If you put those up, that's going to help people feel a little bit more comfortable with your community, that you're not just a bunch of weirdos on the internet, that you are actually wanting to talk to them and wanting to have some sort of base level conversation with them. And more than that, it actually helps break down barriers for the lobby afterwards, where the actual meat of the engagement happens. Because what we're finding, and our CEO Stephanie talks about this a lot, what we're finding right now is that people talk during events, and it's a good thing. They'll sit in rows and they'll converse with people that they know, and they'll quote unquote go to church with their mom or their dad or their family or their friends or whomever, somebody that they invited. But then they'll go to the lobby, and that's where the real conversation and the real fellowship is actually happening. And that makes sense, because you don't go to an event and then sit there and just talk through the whole church service. I mean, you'll talk occasionally and you'll say, oh man, that was a good point and all this other stuff. But realistically, the relationship that you're forming is happening in the lobby, in the classroom, in your Sunday school class, in the basement with the coffee, in the dinners and the things like that. And so using polls and kind of advising people to sit in a row really instructs them for later on when the lobby opens up. It's very powerful, and it's fantastic. Maeve, what's the most creative use of polls that you've seen outside of that, the kind of the season thing? Am I putting you on the spot here?
Yeah, I would have to think.
Okay.
I have to say because I had to come up with some ideas for polls, and the one that I like, but I don't know if it's being used, but I like it if people, if you're talking about a story in the Bible and you list of like what you, because I was thinking of the Christmas story, like what part resonates with you the most, and then they'll give options, because I always like to know what people resonate with. It's not published yet, so I won't give it away, the options I gave.
Ooh, that's
But
a tease.
No, I know. I'm all surprises.
Good.
But I always like to know what resonates with people, because I think once you realize that there are people who are like-minded in terms of what resonates with them, but then there are also people who be like, oh, I never thought of that part in the Christmas story, or I never thought of that part in this book in the Bible. And to know why it matters to other people, that could be a really interesting conversation starter in the lobby.
Absolutely. Yeah, so there's a ton that we can talk about. Our time's almost up here. We don't want to take any more of your time. We want to thank everybody for joining us here today. As always, you can always hit us up on our socials. You can always hit us up on our email and our website and everything like that. We would love to hear from you. If you are watching this on demand, then we're not live. You can always throw something in the chat or in the comments. One of us will always see it, and one of us will always be able to get back to you about your question, about your comment, about your concern. We really just want to hear from you, hear about you. And we invite you to join our Facebook group as well. We're slowly growing that group, and by slowly, I mean slowly, but it's growing. And we invite you to
join
do
us.
that. Yeah, join us online. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, make sure to subscribe to this channel. We're putting out tips and tricks and hints and healthy habits and all of the things that you need to really engage with your church and engage with your community online. So make sure to hit the subscribe button right down below. And we would love to help you out. Maeve, anything else that we can add to today?
Have a wonderful weekend and listen to Taylor Swift's album.
Preach it. Have a wonderful weekend. Go listen to Tay Tay. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.